Let's go. Greetings and welcome back to the Rise Up Mama podcast. It's been a while, but I'm really excited to be here. I've got a fantastic guest that I cannot wait to know more about. If you don't know who I am, my name's Vanessa-Mary and I'm a lifestyle coach for mums, and I educate mums of any age to build resilience, whether that be emotional, physical, mental, and even spiritual. So we do have a Health and Wellbeing Café coming up in June, so it's not long to go, and I have a fantastic guest speaker, Sara Giller. We've met each other in a different way, but I'm finding out so much about her, and I couldn't resist but to invite her onto this month's Health and Wellbeing Café, because Sara will be telling us all about the quartz crystal. So Sara, welcome to the Rise Up Mama podcast. Thank you so much for agreeing to be here. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for inviting me along, and hopefully there are some people out there interested in finding out a little bit more about quartz.
Oh gosh, well, based on what you've already said, that there's a lot to cover, but you're just going to give us a snippet on the 30th. But as I said to you, off recording, as it were, that this conversation is about us getting, well, we do know each other and we talk about lots of different things, but there's things about you that I hear snippets about, and I'm like, I never have a chance to ask Sara about that. So this is my opportunity now. So I'm going to start with your background. So I know that you've been involved in the crystal and mineral sector. Is that how you describe it, or industry?
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
yeah, I'd say I was a mineral dealer.
Mineral dealer. Okay. But could you tell us a little bit about your professional background before you got involved in minerals at all, please?
Yeah. So when I was a kid at school, I always, I just wanted to be a teacher. So I, went through all the little hoops, got my degree, and did about 19 years in education. So I was working at high school level, but I was working with kids who were finding mathematics particularly difficult to understand, and had problems in learning, etc. at the high schools. And then for the last 9 years, I worked for a support service, and we work with children with behavioural and emotional issues, really. So I worked with them, the schools, any of the professionals, and also the parents, etc., etc.
Wow, so you've had quite a wide career in the education sector then. So that's fantastic. And like the way how we know each other now, I do find myself turning to you for advice and guidance. So I feel that part of your character is still with you, even though, you've left the profession, but you're really brilliant at sort of coaching people and bringing people forward, and helping them to believe in themselves. I know that how we know each other through the networking community, you've definitely been a very good source of encouragement for me. So I want to say thank you to you for doing that for me. So
a natural part of me, helping people is basically, what we're here to do. If we can support one another and help one another, then it makes life go around a lot quicker. Exactly. Well, not necessarily, but a lot smoother.
Exactly. So now I'm interested in the holistic field. So mineral dealer is what you've described yourself as. How did all that get started, please?
So when I was about 30, I came into the realm of self-development and spirituality. Up until that time, I was my parents were humanists or agnostics, atheists, and through the loss of someone, it brought me into that field. And so for 10 years, I was doing once a week, I was doing self-development, and we were learning to tap into our understanding of the universe and our own energy and fields and stuff like that. And it was around that time that I worked in collaboration with somebody who wanted to run a market stall, and I'd been toying with the idea of buying minerals wholesale, because I'd got interested in crystals and stuff when I was a child, and at that time, you know, if you went down to the beaches, you could pick up fossils and pyrite and marcasite and stuff like that. And then on a holiday in 1980 over to Israel, I went with my parents, and we found a shop in Jaffa that was just selling agates. And I mean, we were in the shop for 4 hours, you know, because it was like mind blowing. So it rekindled an interest, and anyway, so I said to this lady, well, you can't kind of like cover everything. So why don't I buy the crystals, and then, you know, if you sell them on your stand, we'll find a way of getting commissions and all the rest of it. So that's how I kind of like got involved. I mean, that partnership didn't last very long, and then in the end, I was doing sort of craft fairs and stuff like that, but, you know, really peanut money type of stuff. And then it just sort of developed, and then I found that there were actually rock and gem shows around the country, by which time I was going part-time in my education. So that was absolute revelation, you know, that I could have the bulk of the week to myself to do what I wanted to do. And it also then meant that I could start going abroad to shows and buying in that way. And then there was a decision made in 2000. Well, it actually came out of my mouth, and I sort of found myself saying, yes, you know, I'll take early redundancy, because we were being reorganised, and I was kind of like fed up with it. And so I had a small mini package, which meant that I was supported for about 6 months. And so I just went full time into the crystal business in 2000. So that's how I kind of like got into it.
That's fun. That was fascinating. I love the aspect of doing the travel, because obviously when you're traveling for business, you can write it off as a business expense. So it sounds like you were able to travel the world and hopefully enjoy different places, but also have that benefit.
I mean, I didn't go too far. I wasn't somebody, because I was on my own and working on my own, I didn't really fancy, you know, going off the beaten track and going to find the mines and, you know, sort of doing all that type of stuff. But there, you know, there's some major shows around the world. That Tucson is a classic one. It takes place over about 2 weeks, and there's like show after show where there's multiple shows on, just rolling over. And and that was amazing. So I used to go there. There's Munich has a really good show, and Alsace in France has a really good show. And you know, as a dealer, I got to know other dealers, so it was great fun.
So do you think it was quite easy to get started in this then, what you're saying? Because I've never met anybody who's described themselves as a mineral dealer before. So to me, that sounds quite specialist.
It is to a certain extent. I mean, I found it quite easy picking it up. So I think I probably have an innate a natural inclination in that way, and I have an eye for it as well. You know, like some people. I mean, I liken the mineral business to the antique trade in that you can get everything from the car boot, you know, all the way up to, you know, Sotheby's and you know, Bonhams and stuff like that. Hold on a minute, my cat's trying to get in.
Oh, yeah? Don't worry. We love cats on this show. My old lady doesn't come in.
Terrible, isn't it? Cats and kids, and never work with them.
I know, definitely. Well, you know that I have little Zenta, so yeah. He's having a bath right now. That is getting bedtime ready.
You know, and I liken it to the antique trade. So you've got your car booters all the way up to your real specialists. And it's not an easy business because, it's like any business where you have a product that you have to buy and then sell. So you are very much like a hamster on a treadmill. As soon as you sold stuff, you then got to replenish it. So there's always a cash flow problem. And people might love the idea of, selling crystals and all the rest of it. But, there's a lot of accountability and, knowledge that you need. And unfortunately today, there's lots of people selling stuff, especially on places like Etsy and eBay. And they really don't have a clue what they're selling. And people there don't understand what it is that they're buying.
So who was your customer then? Because it sounds like you was more like doing a wholesale role. Who was your customer?
Well, I started off a little bit. I did some wholesale. I used to go to some shops that were local to me. But in the end, it was really to customers, and my were either collectors. So there are people that collect minerals and crystals in the same way that you would collect art or antiques. And there were also people that were in the healing fraternity that would be buying stuff for use in their holistic therapies.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, I mean, when I've asked you if you're still involved, you told me no.
Well, sort of. I mean, I stopped doing the shows, but I actually helped run a show. So there's 3 of us that run the Oxford Gem and fossil and mineral show, and we run that 4 times a year. Wow. So I help organize that, and I've continued to do that because I just love crystals and minerals. But I've moved away from wanting. I love selling crystals and I love buying crystals, but if you get into part of the depression that we've been in the last 8 years or so, when you haven't got enough money coming in to pay for you to go and source new stock, it then becomes a downward spiral. So and it's a lot of effort. It is a lot of effort. I was fortunate in that I had people come to me selling their collections, or I was selling their collections on their behalf, so I always had new products. But that is the problem when you're in a business, and it's a product that you're actually selling. You have to replace it.
Well, it's interesting because I was going to ask you a question around motivation now, because as you know, I like to inspire and I like to encourage myself and hopefully motivate the mums that I work with. But for yourself, you're doing something different now, but I suppose we have to be driven in whatever we're doing, whether it's selling crystals or what you're doing now. What do you do to kind of keep yourself motivated? And particularly, like you said, it became quite challenging what you was doing. So how do you keep yourself motivated and focused?
I suppose I've always done what I've loved doing. I don't see the point in doing, as soon as something, the enjoyment goes out of something that you're doing, that's the time to stop it.
Right.
And I think everything has its season and everything has its reason. And my time in the mineral world, and things change over time. So the mineral world has been changing, and it's not what it used to be. So the enjoyment level was going down and other opportunities were coming along. And so, that's kind of like, what I do. And what drives me, I suppose, is my passion for helping other people. So there's always a core in what I do is helping people.
That's fantastic. I mean, the women, as they get to know me, I invite them into my club. It's called the Happiness Habits Club. And we do like to keep our eye on the core scientific daily habits that you can bring into your life, which will help you to stay on that higher vibration, that higher end of the emotional scale. So I love the way how you described, if you're not having fun, if you don't have that passion for what you're doing, then maybe, it's kind of turned into a day job type of thing, rather than your,
it's
you know,
like
your passion.
We say that a job is just over broke.
Yeah.
And it's that should never be your motivation for doing it. It will never be where you want to go. I understand, yes, you know, we need cash coming in. We have expenses in our life that, you know, we need that to balance out. But I never considered, you know, when I was teaching, actually, you know, for me, it was like, I always kind of like viewed it as a 9 to 5, and or a bit less, you know, and if I was required to put any more time in there, I used to resent it, because it was then impinging on my time. So I didn't really own that particular role well, and I was a lot younger then. But then when I went on to run my own business, I would think nothing of getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, or, you know, it was just part of my life. It became my life, which I love doing. So it was never arduous.
Well, I'm just thinking, if you were putting on shows, then yeah, you were probably getting up early, delivering the show, and then coming back late if you were traveling the country, or, you know, different parts of the world. So that's interesting, which leads me on to a question about routine in general. I have a way of, you know, sharing with the women and the mums in my community about the morning routine, and also the evening routine, which it is important if you can have a routine. Is there anything that you do within your morning routine which you feel has made a difference to where you are in your life right now?
I don't really do routines.
Interesting.
I'm not one of these people that write down all my goals and tick them off. I go against all of that. It doesn't feel intuitive and flowing for me. So you know, now that I'm older and stuff, you know, if I get up in the morning and I don't have to do something and I don't feel like doing whatever it is, I won't do it. You know, if there's if there's like housework that needs to be done and the sun is shining, I'm going to go out and enjoy the sun. You know, that can wait, because for me it's not important. So from that perspective, I don't have necessarily a routine, but I do try and fit in a weekly basis, you know, exercise. I've started remeditating again, so doing that. You know, other things come along that take your interest, and you know, I've basically stopped watching TV. I tend to watch YouTube and educate myself on the things that I'm interested in and learning more about. You know, you just go with the flow. You're
going with the flow. Yeah, I love that. We had one of my own coach, my spiritual coach. She did a session in April where she was talking about intuitive eating, which was really, you know, listening to her body when she was eating. So at the moment, I'm very routine, Sara, as you would imagine, with a 3-year-old, you know, and trying to get, not, as Jim Murray says, I don't want to get through the day, I want to get from the day. So I do have to be quite structured in what I'm doing. So it's interesting. I look forward to the time when somebody will ask me a similar question, and I'll be like, routines? I don't do routines.
Well, that's the other thing, is when you like, you know, I was employed, so I had to do the 9 to 5 or whatever it was, and I did that for like 19, 20 years, and it's like, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to please myself and do what I want, get up when I feel like I want to get up, go to bed when I feel like I want to go to bed, not because I have to.
Yeah, no, I love it. So I've got a question about travel now. It is a little bit different maybe than the traveling you did as a mineral dealer. This question is about time travel. And yeah, exactly. And just to kind of like get a take on, you know, for you personally, if you could, well, don't know if you believe in time travel. If you do, you can tell us about, you know, how you feel about that. But if you could time travel, where, you know, is there a particular part of history that you would go back to? So I suppose there's 2 parts of that question. Do you believe in time travel? Because there's a lot of theories around that.
I think that if I regain the skills of time travel, I would probably have access to the information that I need about our history and where we're going, etc., etc. I mean, there is a theory that all time is now.
Yes.
It's very difficult to get our physical brains around that.
Yeah.
But it would be, I would love to be able to flip places and find out what the truth is. It dawned on me, some of the stuff that I'm reading currently, that they were talking about, using your third eye. And this lady, whose book I have read in the past, is highly intelligent, and she said something in a YouTube interview I was watching the other day, and I thought that's actually true, because you look with your eyes, but you see with your third eye.
Mm.
And at the moment, I strongly believe that we have been suppressed. All of our skills and all our magic has been suppressed, and a lot of the time we don't have access to it, though there are a few fortunate people that have access to it all. So it's about trying to detox the body, decalcify the pineal gland, get the vibrations, listening to vibrations and sound that can help the body to get back its true power, and for us to really begin to understand who we are inside, who is that observer. That's my task at the moment.
I love it. I mean, is there any particular crystals that are good for enhancing what you would say, I don't know if I want to say intuition, but enhancing that kind of foresight, I suppose, or good for our crown chakra then? Is there any, well, there are crystals that would be good for the crown chakra, of course, but I'm just thinking what you're saying now in terms of the superpower, is there anything that we could be saying, yes, I need to have all these crystals around me because they're going to make me more powerful?
I mean, for me, crystals and minerals are a bit like homeopathy in that, one size doesn't fit all. So, if you were a homeopath, you would take down the history of somebody, and, you could have two clients come to you with the same condition, but you would prescribe something different for each one because of the different temperament and the different experience they've had, blah, blah, blah. And for me, it's the same with crystals. So it was one of the things that always used to drive me mad, is that people so readily give their power away. And when I was on my stand, I'd have people come up to me saying, well, what does this crystal do? Or what do I need? It's like, don't ask me. You're the best person to be the judge of that. You need to trust yourself, trust your gut, and choose what feels right for you. To a certain extent, I probably lost a bit of patience with people like that. But it is a lesson for people to take on board, I think. And it's the same thing. If you're drawn to something, there's a reason why you're drawn to it. And not, the quartz crystal is a phenomenal thing because it resonates very much with us, because all crystals and minerals are made up of minerals, and we're made up of minerals. We have a crystalline structure, but all quartzes have their own personalities. They have their own individualization, just like we do. They don't all necessarily look the same unless they've been cut.
Oh, I love that. So obviously, even in this conversation, Sara, and other conversations that we've had, you're very knowledgeable. And I've got a question. I don't know if you've ever written a book, because I've never had a chance to ask you this. So you're not a published author. Okay. So if you ever thought in your life it's something that I would want to do, have you given any thought to what type of book you would put out there?
I mean, a couple of years ago, I think at the beginning of lockdown and stuff, I was having quite a lot of information or understanding about the monetary system and how we've been duped with it all and what it's like. And I actually did get so far as to starting to write down stuff and actually get a pictorial map of that illustrates the system in a way that, you know, maybe people could understand. But I think that obviously my focus then changed, my timeline changed, and it's kind of like moved away from that. So I don't have any desire to, you know, carry on with that. I don't feel that that's necessary.
Well, as I say, there's a book inside all of us. So, and I know that you're around book coaches with the work that you're doing now. So it would just be interesting if you ever did decide to put your knowledge into a book, what you would share with the world. So thinking about what brings you peace, obviously you've got a lot of knowledge on crystals and minerals. You've spoken about meditation. Is there anything else that you do in your life on a regular basis that brings peace and calm into your life, Sara? Sorry.
I mean, I think for me, I've always been one to want to evolve and want to learn and understand. I have a burning desire to understand things. And that includes myself. So I'm always kind of like working on myself to become a better person than what I was before, to become more patient, become more tolerant, to understand more. But as my own magic appears, it's an easy thing to do. And I think mindset is so vitally important. And, you know, for me, a positive mindset with that is very optimistic is really needed, so that you don't mither so much, you know, as your little one. I think that it's really unfortunate for people that have a mindset where all they can see is the downside of things or the negative of things. It's kind of like a real shame. And I think that, you know, it's important to look at your demons. And I have looked at my demons, and I've gone through healing courses, and, you know, I've worked on myself for 30 odd years or more. To get to a place where I can actually really appreciate where I am. I have contentment. You know, it might not be my ideal, but I can be content where I am, what I'm doing. You know, there's people, we know people that travel the world, and for them it's great. It's like, you know, I mean, I'm quite a bit older than them, so, you know, that kind of drive probably has lessened maybe. Yeah, there's stunning places all around the world. How would you pick one? I'm in a stunning place in my garden because I can be in nature, and as long as I'm there, I can be content there. But hopefully one day we'll, you know, when we have our own time machine, or when we have our own means of being able to jump, you know, from one place to another very quickly, then we can access that.
That's incredible. Yeah, and it does lead me to a neat little question, which is about what do you hope the world looks like in the next 5 years, Sara? Because we've all experienced, you know, what happened 2020, dare we say it. You and I have met each other last year, so as you know, things were starting to change, but actually we've met each other online because the business you're involved in moved to an online offering, and then that's how I found your community in the community. But what would you hope the world would look like in the next 5 years?
I don't think it's a hope. It's knowing that this is what's going to come. So I think that we're going to get our freedom back. And I think that it's happening now. And this is part of the change in the energies at the moment. This is part of the change, the craziness that's going on in the world. It's part of the tipping over, where the whole process whereby we have been dumbed down, we have been put into almost like a slave culture, that's all ending. So you know, we'll have all those technologies that have been kept away from us because people were so greedy, a certain number of people that are kind of like running the world, so to speak. All they're interested in is having a slave labor, and they want all the riches for themselves, and they'll do anything in order to do that. For me, that's come to an end, and that's why there's a lot of desperation at the moment. But I think that in a relatively short period of time, we will find that we're not one small insignificant planet, that we're part of a much, much bigger universe than we ever thought possible, that we will have access to a Star Trek future. And it, you know, I think there's a lot of disclosure in films, and there's loads of films coming out now that give disclosure or soft disclosure about stuff that is preparing us for what is coming. Star Trek, I think, is very much where we're headed.
Okay. I mean, I definitely agree with you, because obviously we've had conversations about other topics. What I'm thinking of now is 5 years isn't that far away, really. And to me, I still kind of get a sense of I don't necessarily know them, but maybe people that I meet, you know, at the office, in my day job, or today I had to catch the bus because I had a problem with my car. This still seems to be almost like this. People don't seem to be aware, you know, certain conversations that you and I have, then I'm not saying that you necessarily have them in the office, but just different things that people say gives me clues that they're not necessarily aware of information that you and I may have more foresight on. So where do you see the future in terms of, you know, getting this message out? Like you said, you feel like it's already happening, but has that caught up with the ordinary person?
Well, you know, the whole point of you know, the big pharma, the big tech corporations, the big online things like, you know, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all of these, plus our banks, plus the mainstream media, they're all being run by the same people, and they're all pushing the same agenda. They have been. I think the way that I see it rolling out is that that's all about to change, and they have to change. And so there's already now small disclosures coming out in mainstream media, and there's a bulk of the population that will only believe what they see and hear
in the media. Yeah.
I haven't watched the news and the
newspaper
because I can't guarantee that what I'm being told is the truth. So, you know, you need to see both sides. You need to hear everything, really, to make your own judgment, not a judgment, but, you know, you make your own feeling about that situation known to you. And I think that these small disclosures will get bigger and bigger and bigger, and people will just be led.
Okay.
They'll be following the news, and they'll just be led to the same conclusions, and then they'll all be doing what, you know, they're basically being told to do, which is what they did before. But this time it will lead them, you know, the gates will be open, they can go and romp in the fields, and they'll be free.
Okay, I mean, we have to use our discernment when it comes to information anyway, but I do hear what you're saying. I don't have a television, as you've heard me say before. Like, I just find it so hilarious. The TV license keeps saying, we're coming to investigate, and I'm like, come on, man, you know, they're still coming, Sara. They haven't made it round yet. So for me, what I do know on channels that I've seen, like Telegram groups that I'm in, I have seen snippets where, as you said, oh, this was reported on such and such a news. It seems to be the American media channels, so I don't know if it's caught up in England, but that would be interesting. But when it comes to information, you know, as I've asked you just a moment ago about becoming an author, writing a book, as an educator, and you've also mentioned, you know, about books that you're reading. I personally love to read a good book. So even today, I was on the bus, but I had to see the positive of having the bus ride. And it was the fact that I could read my book as we were taking that journey. So, you know, is there a particular book that you're reading at the moment, Sara, that you'd like to give us some insight into?
there's loads. The one that I'm reading currently is by a guy called Dr. Michael Sala. He's got a YouTube channel as well, and it's basically about the history of it depends on how far people's minds are open and what they're interested in. But this is basically talking about ET intervention, alien intervention, going back to the Second World War and what happened with the Nazis, Antarctica, and it's history that I didn't know. And he's a researcher. He's he researches this stuff, and he makes sure that it's collaborated in as much as he possibly could. I mean, I didn't realize, and I actually did a search, but part of what I'm reading, he said that there was a back in 1977, an ITV broadcast was suddenly taken over by a voice that called themselves Vrillion from the Ashtar Command.
Wow. Well, we hear about Ashtar all the time nowadays.
You've got to be careful. Again, you've got to use your discernment. So, but I actually found by doing a search on Brave that there is some videos, and there is a video of it, and it's like, well, you take a bit, whether that's true or not, I've absolutely no idea, but it was interesting, and the message was helpful. Because it was coming at a time when a lot was going down the route of thermonuclear bombs and all the rest of it, and it was about stop it, you don't do that.
Wow.
Somewhere else, but obviously the governments didn't take heed to a certain extent, but it's interesting now because there's quite a lot of reports. They say that there's loads of silos all around America, all around the world, where there are nuclear warheads kind of like poised, and they all kind of like mysteriously went offline, and it's like, you can imagine the panic at the Pentagon or, the military. It was our brothers upstairs saying, no, we've got the power to switch this on or off.
Wow. I've personally heard a few more things about Antarctica in the last 2 years than I've ever heard, as a woman growing up. So yeah, I agree with you, what you said earlier on about the disclosure. It is coming out in different ways, whether it be books, videos, people doing interviews like this. So yeah, I do agree that actually for those who don't know, that they'll start suddenly thinking, wait a minute, I heard this bit here and I heard that bit there, and hopefully piece it together.
The really important thing is that there's misinformation on both sides of the subject, and people who are kind of like waking up and wanting to find out more are perhaps finding this misinformation first and going down that route and being totally misled. So it's kind of like really important. I'm very discerning about who I listen to, and I trust my gut a hell of a lot. And there's a lot of music, it's we resonate within certain hertz, and there are certain hertz that work on us physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually in different ways for the positive. But you can flip that. There are hertz out there that work counter to that.
Yeah.
And that, that's why a lot of classical music and opera stirs you, moves you, has that positive effect, because it's vibrating at that rate that is conducive to us, which is what crystals do with all the colors and stuff like that. You've got to kind of like rely on that when you're listening to someone. If it's fear-based, if what is coming up in you is fear, or like, oh my God,
yes,
stop.
I agree with you.
That's misinformation. All the people that are are not self-serving, but they're serving to others, their message, their information is always positive and uplifting. They will never ever try and scare the pants off of you or put fear into your mind, because the fear is what brings your vibration down. It brings you down to the basically to the level of the people that we're trying to avoid.
Yeah, no, I definitely hear you, what you're saying. It's about the that energy that you're going to pour out through your words, and the way how you're saying it. Wow, this has been absolutely fascinating. My final question is really, again, high vibration, high energy. I'm all about, let's be happy, not in a sort of like airy fairy way, but I really want people to keep their vibration on that high frequency as much as they can. My daughter was describing something in the hospital setting, and I went, yes, but darling, she's not on the same vibration as you. You have to send her love and help her to raise her vibration. So for you, Sara, is there a tip or something you could share with us which will really help the viewers and the listeners to, I call it a happiness habit? So is there something that you would say, if you want to be on that high vibration, focus on this particular aspect, whatever it would be for you?
I suppose there's two. I mean, it's gratitude and kindness. I think if you are just grateful, even for people that are causing an issue or a problem in your life, it's there for a reason to kind of like show you something that will enable you to grow. So you can thank them for that, even if it's causing a bit of a headache for you and all the rest of it. At the end of the day, they're doing you a favor.
Yes.
And getting out in nature is a great way. Just connect with nature and be grateful for it. For looking at the sky, the clouds, the animals in our lives, everything in our lives. And it is also about serving others. If you are serving others and you are being kind and you're not deliberately going out of your way, I don't think many people deliberately go out of their ways to be nasty and all that type of stuff. Because I think they do that when their vibrations are very low. So it's about finding things that will help you maintain that vibration until it becomes so natural that you just do it anyway. And that could be music. It's finding that thing that sets your heart alight, whether it's dancing, whether it's music, whether it's art, whether it's crystals, whether it's nature, whatever it is, find that lifts you up.
Oh, that is perfect. Well, Sara, I can't wait to really, because the title, I've not got it in front of me right now, but it's something like Everything You Need to Know About the Quartz Crystal. So
something like that. We won't be able to do everything.
Exactly. It's not going to be quite everything, but just as a teaser. But, Sara's going to be the guest contributor at the Health and Wellbeing Café, which is Thursday, the 30th of June. We'll be online at 7:30. As you can hear, so much wisdom and so much knowledge. So, if you haven't experienced the Health and Wellbeing Cafe before and you would love to listen to Sara, ask her direct questions about crystals. Don't ask her which one you should choose, though.
No,
don't do that. But if there's something that you want to know about crystals and crystal energy, crystal therapy, then please make sure that you follow the link that will be underneath this video. And for those of you who've been with us before, this is definitely one not to miss. And as you know, I've been wanting to have a crystal expert on the Health and Wellbeing Cafe. So I just feel so happy and grateful that actually I had an expert with me the whole time and I didn't realize it. So I'm so thrilled that you agreed to join us on the 30th. Thank you for that. And thank you so much for this evening. It's been interesting on that personal level to get to know you, because the environment that we do speak in is very, structured. We only have a certain amount of time to have conversations and things like that. So it's been lovely to get to know you more. But thank you so much for sharing your knowledge.
You're welcome, Vanessa, and I will see everybody on the 30th.
Yay! All right then. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the 30th. Bye-bye.